Hello, Jay and Leonard. This is, of course, Ryan Decker, and I am submitting my response reflection via flip video. I find it will probably be the most efficient, effective way for me to communicate, especially responding this deep into a rehearsal process of which I'm pretty consumed with at the moment. So some things I would like to say will probably be a little bit of a repeat from the presentations at the alumni weekend, but it would be good for me to articulate them for myself even in this video to have for later, and for perhaps future students to refer to as well. So this project, doing pre-production for A Midsummer Night's Dream, originally the project was to produce A Midsummer Night's Dream. The project was to include the whole thing, but in the effort of not putting all my eggs in one basket, it became the pre-production that would allow for a theoretical production to happen. The production is happening, and I do have some evidence from the rehearsal process of which can relate back to the success and shortcomings of pre-production as I've learned them. So the inspiration for this show, this project, was the courtyard. As I explained to an interviewer today from the Northern Iowan, it wasn't a show that decided to do the show A Midsummer Night's Dream and then decided to put it in the courtyard. It was really the courtyard was calling to me to do a show there, and I just intuitively, that show was A Midsummer Night's Dream, and that inspiration piece has it's important, and it comes back, and it's something that the project starts with, and that throughout the project has to return to in order to succeed, I believe. Again, the ironic thing about this whole project is that I've not been a fan of Shakespeare. I've been to plenty of Shakespeare shows that I've suffered through, and personally I believed it to be sort of an archaic thing. I don't understand why people still do Shakespeare, but there are places like American Players Theater that really inspire me with their shows. I cannot believe the clarity I have when I see productions they do. There's also the Dubuque Art Theater had a wonderful production on the riverfront of Romeo and Juliet, and that probably informs my schema of relating it to outdoors, both with American Players Theater and Shakespeare on the River. But now I'm rambling. An acting styles class. First time I really felt empowered to take it on. So part of this goes thanks to Richard, because I've really found something I'm excited about, and I haven't told him that or how excited I am. And realizing this, there was a lack in my 4 years here of attempting Shakespeare. Nevertheless, I do know a little bit of Shakespeare, and Midsummer is, in my opinion, the most most accessible, and it's personally a favorite of mine. Anyways, I've probably rambled on long enough about an introduction, so I will hop right into my learning of this semester. My learning of this semester in this project has been accompanied much by my readings in performing arts management and law. And one of those things I've learned from that class that directly applied to this project was that people come first. Absolutely, like beginning, end all, be all. People come first, and in our directing class we talked about 50% of directing is ground plan and the other 50% is casting. I would say there's a lot of truth to that, but obviously there's a lot of other things that come with the responsibilities. So the important thing to me was getting the right people on the bus. So that's a theme that will come back. Um, and I will now, um, I'm switching over to my letter of agreement, and I will be addressing each bullet point briefly to sort of make a statement and then come back, and I'll conclude with what my major learning point that I'm taking away from this project is. So under artistic, the first thing I had to do was create an adaptation of Midsummer. This was a practicality thing. It was a logistical thing. I needed to do it with a small cast, just to, where we are with the Strayerwood season and Department of Theater. And to me, the show is really two storylines that have sort of a third group of people interconnecting them. So what I did was I removed the Athenian royalty, I removed the fairy royalty, and I left the mechanicals almost intact, sort of displaced Snug into Snout, and then the four lovers. So then I had the opportunity for 4 people to double cast as mechanicals and lovers, and then I left Puck as the in-between link for this show, the link between the two storylines. Then I created written blocking. I requested of my design team for a while of a 2-scale ground plan, and it just never happened. So one day I just went out, sketched out an approximation that was not to scale, and began the written blocking. That's probably took me most of my time outside of rehearsal, and outside of meetings. Was that written blocking. I definitely want to do it every single show I take on as a director. It makes the process efficient, as evidenced by the process that we're in so far. And you will probably notice between watching the show and looking at the blocking charts, some things have changed, and they're not major things, but they are things that you... as much as I try to imagine the bodies in space, it doesn't it changes. And so you'll see that change reflected. I found that, to me, it was important to be out in the courtyard as much as I could, even while dreaming up blocking. And then a lot of it was actually written away from the courtyard, but a lot of it originated from me sitting there, looking at it, imagining the show on its feet. In my book, you will also see that I have articulated in a visual/written form character and design concepts as a starting point for the design and rehearsal process. So basically what I did is I went out and I found all the images in my head of what this video, what this motion picture in my head was of this show happening out there. And I found them and I pieced them together, and I put little Facebook thumbs up on the stuff that really spoke to me, and then I attempted in design meetings to articulate, what was the purpose of the glasses? Why were the glasses on Demetrius speaking to me? The glasses never made it into the final, but it spoke to the sort of character that I thought Demetrius was, so I could share that with the designers and they could go somewhere else with it. And still communicate the same thing, or I could share that with Sean, who plays Demetrius, and he can go his own way with that. I conduct all production meetings and cast meetings that occurred before rehearsal. You will see a rehearsal report of that, and design and production reports of that in the book. That's pretty basic, that's pretty simple. As you can see, it articulates then in the spoken form what I was imagining, what my vision was. And then, of course, I guided the designers to final designs. I will include in this book, you'll see costume renderings. If Jessica gets me her designs tonight, we will have makeup designs in there. We do have lighting and sound. They were optional to the project, but the important thing, scenically, as you can see here, I have some scenic elements that are in the show. The big elements, which are the 4 doors in the show, do exist. They were designed, but due to some health problems with Jen Andrews, scenic designer, I do not have those renderings. But rest assured, the designs exist because they are alive. I will move on to management. All right, enlist, cast, and supervise. Enlist/cast and supervise artistic personnel, actors, designers, stage managers, tech. As I said, this is the most important thing to me. There is nothing that will make up for anything else that can go wrong than having the wrong people involved. And I'm so grateful for every single person that I have involved in this project, and I try to offer that to them, that thanks, as much as I can. Casting was a process in which I pulled out of the script bits of what everyone says, and you'll see in the margins we have sort of what, I'm sorry about that, what they, special direction for them. So what I would tell people as they came into auditions was, this is going to be just a clean run, no pressure, this is just to get the words out, which in part it was. But a lot of that was also me secretly evaluating where are they with basic acting skills in terms of listening, reacting, focusing, imagining, and assessing those skills. Then came the part where I imposed an artificial direction on them to see if they would be directable in the direction that I wanted the character to go or be represented, and also to I would do little sneaky things, like tell them, okay, start at this line and end at this line, purely for the sake of finding out if they could follow directions. So then with the cast, I end up with Rachel Russell as Quince and Hermia, and she is an actress with experience in class in acting styles. She undertook Shakespeare, also with Gwendolyn's extreme Shakespeare class. We also have Nick Cheezick playing Lysander and flute, also an alum of the department and of the acting styles class. We have Sean, who is playing Demetrius and Bottom, and not yet in acting styles, but definitely has a lot of acting chops and dedication, which all of these actors have, the dedication to commit to work and come in with seriousness to have fun and to undertake these roles in a professional manner and a dedicated manner. And lastly, we have our graduate Melanie Pickard, who gets bitten by the acting bug from time to time, and also, although probably not an actress herself, definitely has acting skills, definitely does a fine job in the show. And again, all these guys have the dedication and work ethic that I aspire to work with. So again, a great gift, this cast. Designers and managers was a little different process. I sort of grassroots was spreading the word that this project was going to happen, and out of that, I've got Michaela on as a stage manager, strong stage management skills, great communicator. So she hopped aboard right away, which was a huge relief to me. And then she brought with her Malia, and they've been a great team. Costume designer, I went first to Tori Rezick. She was who I absolutely wanted to work with. I've worked with her before, and she is especially great at getting inside my head. she if I can't find words, as sometimes I cannot, for some reason she knows exactly what I'm saying and what I'm thinking when I need to communicate something. And she also is not afraid to say, all right, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get you something else that achieves the same thing. And when I give up on some ideas I have, she is one of the people who comes through with much better ideas than I have to start. Scenery, costumes, lighting, makeup, hair and makeup is Jessica Williams, and she came forward out of that grassroots spreading word of mouth. She's done a very nice job. It's a very simple job, but it's an effective job, and she's been a very important player throughout the process. And then lighting, which was optional, but right away I jumped, I got Josh Dirks, because he is an experienced electrician, which was important to me. And lighting is probably where I'm least familiar with. It's not a tactile thing. And so I trusted him to produce something that I had no idea where to begin. And he's come through, and it's been a wonderful design, simple but effective, but definitely beyond the scope of what I thought we would end up doing, which was going to be kicking on work lights. There is an actual design. Last minute into this process, I brought a properties designer, Alex Westrom, and a sound designer, Matt Vishlock, both of whom are absolutely great at coming in and working within budget, both of them working within budget and producing exactly what you want without straying away. They really do a good job, and they do a good job efficiently and quickly, which was great because right away I knew there would need to be props, and I would have liked of there to be sound early on to help create the arc. That's mostly what sound does for me, is create the arc of which you'll see in the story. But both of them very efficient in their fields, and their fields honestly were not the highest concern of me early on in the storytelling process. I knew they would become that way, but also in the initial phases it wasn't. So let's see. Create a production rehearsal schedule that works within the Strayerwood season. You will see that in the book, and it has been a very fast-paced rehearsal process, but it's been a very efficient rehearsal process, and I will get to why that is. Securing a venue, you will see evidence in the book that I have done that. Articulate rehearsal expectations in written contract form. The rehearsal expectations, I do not have it in front of me, but you will see that it includes not only like standard rehearsal expectations of leave your cell phones off, wait to ask for clarification until directions are given, etc. It's standard stuff. But also there's a section on preparation, and at a read-through I was very clear on what that preparation was to be, what I wanted them to bring to rehearsal. And that includes the process of preparing for Shakespeare that I learned in acting styles class, and we explained that to each other. I explained that particularly Lizzie White came forward and she wanted to have help with scansion, so I helped her learn what scansion was. Also understanding that scansion is not the most important thing in an adaptation of which I've pieced together. So we have expectations, and I believe they're set high in terms of you will be on time, you will do, you will follow these behavioral things, and saying that is important. It shouldn't have to be that way in an ideal world, but saying it realizes it, and so very glad I did that. And of course, a lot of the language, as I cite in there, is stolen from Patrick. And from working on Bat Boy, I have to thank him for giving me a lot of language on how to talk to actors. And that's where we get the pieces such as no cold reading. You will come into this show making choices. And putting that preparation and that ownness of come and making choices, no cold reading, and also the catch of be flexible, because stuff will change. That was important to establishing a culture. That'll be a part of my summary comment. So expectations, absolutely key. Probably the biggest thing I want to take away from this project. Okay, moving on. Finances. Developed a budget with the production team. You will find evidence of that in the book. Applied to UNISTA for funding. You will find that in the book. Apply for at least one grant. You will find that in the book, and you will also find evidence that we successfully obtained that. Create and launch at least one fundraising effort. That was originally going to be a Midsummer specific fundraiser, and it has evolved into a UNISTA support system, and you will see that articulated in the book and as to how that works. Not really key to direction, but it's an important pre-production and management thing, so you will find that. Lastly, probably a thing that I have the most experience in, but the fact that I'm directing this show makes it all new to me again. So writing and distributing at least one news release. You will find the news release in my book. What I learned from this is that when I'm directing, I can write passionate little bits to include into a news release to make it more interesting. We've been struggling with getting articles written about UNISTA productions this semester, and in addition to this being an interesting show to the people reading the news release because it's outdoors, because it's free, because it's Shakespeare, I feel that the little personal bits I added also caught the eye and also encouraged them to get someone out here to talk to us. So that is something I want to do in the future on perhaps other marketing projects I do, even when I do not direct, would be to ask directors questions that will get them excited that I can include. And also, as a director, include those statements myself. Guide the design, print, and distribution of posters. I worked with a graphic designer, and this is the first time in a long time that I've worked on a show without doing the graphic design. That being said, of course, I had a very clear image in mind of what I wanted. I brought in a graphic designer, and I told her basically what the content needed to be, titles. There's specific branding stuff, such as the UNISTA logo has to go in a certain place, there has to be a certain font used for it. There has to be the social media bar at the bottom. But other than that, really what I gave her was the show is set outside, so that inspiration out there, make it your inspiration. The color purple was resonating for us as going to be the magic color of the show. So she, as you can see from the poster, she went that way. Strangely enough, she used Garamond font, which has been personally my font for the show. But I never said that to her, so I found it interesting that the Garamond font that found its way into my work found its way into her work as well. Just an interesting thing. She came back with a poster it's roughly what the final draft was. We made some compromises. She had a fairy that I didn't really want. I wanted to adjust the title of the show so that it was bigger and more prominent. But really, her first draft and the final draft are really exactly what I had in mind. Again, like Tori with costumes, this was a situation where I articulated briefly, but the important points. and the important points got me exactly what I wanted. So I learned how to explain my graphic design once with another designer. The next was to create social media event and teaser. As you will find online, there is a Facebook event. Also submitted it to My Universe and created the teasers, our flip videos of the actors goofing around, a video of a dance we are incorporating into the show. So there are interesting moving images to get people excited about coming to the show. And then lastly was be available for public relations requests, and I did that today with Northern Iowan. They asked for a interview. I gave that to them. They asked for a photographer to come in. He was welcomed in. I will print those emails and put them in the book as evidence. So the big what have I learned from this project? One, I still love Shakespeare. I want to explore it more. Two, I've grown a lot since taking the directing class, and I think that has to do with understanding what expectations are going into a process, and also to do blocking ahead of time, and to think thoroughly through the script ahead of time, into articulating what that vision will be. So when you get into the rehearsal time, you communicate that and you get that vision to take shape. So for me, directing has become compartmentalized into two pieces. Not compartmentalized, there's a lot of overlap, but basically for me, directing is one, having a passion and a strong vision of how the show is to be, how you want the show to be realized, the script to be realized. And that was, for me, very present because of the inspiration of the courtyard, my knowledge and love of the script. Very strong vision that way. The other part of directing, aside from vision, then, for me, is establishing a culture. And I realized that even if I've failed as a director in terms of the product of this show, which I don't believe we have at all, but if that failed, if the story wasn't being told well or enjoyably, or whatever you define success as a director, I believe that I've done an outstanding job in creating a culture. And that is a culture of talented people, very skilled people, coming together with dedication and commitment to what their craft is and to collaborating together. In my 4 years here, I've done a lot of shows from a few different angles. And I can definitely say, at least very much from a cast standpoint, you work in a lot of shows where you start to wonder why these other actors are here, or why these other people are here who don't seem to care what the work is, or don't come to the work with dedication, and that is not the way I want to work. It's a way I will work again in the future, because I will work however, I get work. But as a director, I want to put the people first, get the right team, and then for them, set expectations. This is going to be a short rehearsal process. This is going to be a fast progressing thing. This is clearly the direction I want the show to go. And then being collaborative, allowing there to be wiggle room. Shoot, I'm going to forget who this quote is from. I want to say Max Dupree. I hope I don't hash this, but there's a quote that I found a couple of days ago that has reaffirmed this entire process for me, and that is that Um, Leadership is first defining reality. Finally, it is saying thank you. Everywhere in between, it is being a servant. And to me, that has really summarized and reaffirmed what my directing process and philosophy has been, which was to set expectations, set the rehearsal schedule, set the design and production schedule, set the budget, set all these things that are going to be the sandbox in which we play in. And then as we're playing in that sandbox, to be flexible and to be collaborative. And we have some, we had challenges arise where Jen was sick and Jen had to leave. We had to pick up some slack. We had Rachel get sick. We had Nick have an emergency class thing come up. So there have been, we had rain one night. So there are challenges that arise, and being flexible is important. And being collaborative is also very important. I forgot to mention Lizzie earlier. Lizzie, oh my God, perfect in her role as well. I feel awful now that I didn't mention her before, but she's doing a great job. And perhaps not the most confident after tonight's rehearsal, but definitely a match to her character. Where was I? Defining reality is important because as a director, I have to create a culture, and I need to create a culture that gets us as close to my vision as possible. And I feel that that's been successful in this show. Culture gets a director as close to their vision as they possibly can. A good culture, a collaborative culture, a flexible culture. And then flexibility and collaboration and dedication is that culture. Finally, saying thank you. Appreciating the work the actors have done, appreciating the work of the designers, and telling them that as frequently as I can. And also with particularly actors, if they do have, if they do something, it's usually behavioral. Surprisingly, like it hasn't been their work. It's been. One day we had a flare-up of nobody wanted to be at a Saturday work call. We got ahead of schedule and we had to pick up the slack for Jen. And so I had to say at the end of that work call / rehearsal day, I was disappointed in X that happened this evening. So you have to confront those brutal facts. But other than that, I'm appreciating the work that they do all the time and appreciating their work ethic and dedication. Dedication keeps coming up. I noticed that word a lot. I keep saying. But in between, it's entirely being a servant. It is asking the designers what they need of me. Is there anything I can do for you, Tori? Is there anything you need, Jessica? At the end of the night, before I leave, is there anything you need, Michaela? And during the rehearsal process, does anyone need clarification on this? Are we good to run it? Because we don't have to run it yet. If you have questions, we'll get there. That's been important to me. It also keeps people's spirits up. It keeps people dedicated. It keeps people committed. It keeps them feeling a sense of responsibility, I think, and a sense of contribution. So in this efficient process, we managed to get a bit ahead of schedule, even with blocking. Like I said, we had a work call day. Today was the first day we took care of actor business, which I wasn't planning on. It's sort of a higher tier thing in my mind, but today we did Linklater stuff. We did some Michael Chekhov stuff to help specify what the physical characters are, especially since the levers and mechanicals have to create separate characters. Did some viewpoint stuff to help us remember that we got to keep it fresh and that we got to keep it spontaneous, even though we've been running the show fairly frequently now, which is all on them, good on them. So in between being the servant and being flexible and being able to provide opportunity to work on acting and characterization and voice and physical character has been a gift that the cast has given themselves because of the culture we have and because of the what they bring to the table. Had a thought pass through my mind. Culture, 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 culture. So, I'm sorry, just a moment here. This directing and this leadership role, which is why I love doing it so much. I want to direct more in the future. I think I'm capable of it. I think I can continue to get better and become exceptional at it. That my directing role, my leadership role, is not to make my job easier, but it is to help every single person involved in this be able to do their work, to do their best work. And so that's why I check in throughout rehearsal, throughout the design process, to see what I can offer them. And it means coming in and building scenery when we need to do it. It means meeting with Lizzie or meeting with other actors when they come to me with questions or need assistance outside of rehearsal. It means making myself available to sign purchase approval forms. It's my job is serving the people that serve this show. And together we are doing a wonderful job of storytelling. And if we're all doing that, I've found a passion for this that I can continue to pursue. I have a vision. I achieve that through a culture. Because so the culture is expectations and a process. And this project has been outlining those expectations and creating a process. And I believe we are getting very close to my vision. And I want to continue to expand and refine this in the future. That was a long rant. That was my response, my reflection to Senior Project Spring 2012. Directing and pre-production of Bard in the Yard production, Midsummer Night's Dream. Thank you.